All right, in today's episode, I want to talk about how to quit your job. And this is coming from somebody that's actually done it. So I always talk about my experience and I share those real life experiences with you guys. And I really wanted to share exactly what we did and how we were able to quit our 9 to 5s, which were making good income, to what we do today. And this is myself and my wife. So we've actually done both sides of the equation, which is really interesting. And I'll literally show you exactly what we did. I think it's going to be really important. So I'm going to date myself a little bit and go back to right around COVID time. So right when we were work from home, March 2020, into the summer, like let's call it May and June. And so as a CPA at Deloitte, my busy season, as they call it, was pretty much up to, let's call it May, the mid-May. So end of May, early June, my brain starts thinking, hey, how can we, quit the job? And at this point, 2019 was when Budgetdog started. I made zero income up to that point, basically, right? But I knew there was something more to it. We did it for a year and a half. People loved it. I know services or products, but people loved what we had. I was like, what if I can monetize it? Like, what if there's ways to help people and also charge a price to do so and create products and services? And it's like, there's got to be a way. And I saw tons of people out there doing the same thing online. And I was like, man. So I talked to my really good friend, Sean, the Wealth Dad, and Colin, Decade Investor. And I remember specifically pacing around my living room. It was on like a Wednesday when I was supposed to be at work, but you know how that is at work from home. Asking them a question. Hey guys, have you ever considered like doing this full time, quitting your jobs? And we were all three regular 9 to 5 professionals in the tech field, in the finance space, and as a CPA myself. And for the first time in my life, I actually thought I had a chance because I saw other people doing it. And that's huge. And to have the right mindset in order to do this and take this leap of faith, it's really hard. It's not easy just to quit your 9 to 5. And so that mindset, my whole entire life was, even my wife would tell me along the way, she's like, you will never work for somebody. You're going to create your own business. You're going to do all these things. I'm like, there's no way. I was like, I went to school my whole life. I became a CPA. I struggled to get my CPA and I'm finally a CPA and I'm doing well at Deloitte and I'm already 4 years in my career. I couldn't go back to school. I can't do all these other things to get myself out of it. So I was like, how do I get myself out of this? And I was at a crossroads at my job at that point in time where I was like, kind of like, what's next? I didn't really want to continue the path to partner at Deloitte. And I was kind of on the sideline, with Budgetdog. It wasn't really full-time. I wasn't monetizing or making money. And so once I had that conversation, it opened my mind. And for the first time in my life, I said, we're going to make this happen. Now, how do we make this happen from a tactical perspective? But the mindset stuff is super important because if you don't ever get over that mindset to have the confidence to buy all into yourself and to bet on yourself, you're never going to take the tactical steps that I'm about to talk about, and you're always going to stay status quo. You're never going to take that leap of faith. And, I was scared most of my life to do that. And, looking back, I'm like, wow, why was I so scared? But like, there's so many different reasons people are scared to do things. But I can tell you right now, if there's fear, it's your guiding light, because that's always been my guiding light. If I'm scared of something, I know that's actually what I should be addressing because I'm running away from it for some reason, and I know it can help me. That's exactly what this was. And so, the Dave Ramsey podcast, Dave Ramsey reached out to me to interview as one of the, personalities there. We went through 2 or 3 interviews, and by the time I went to the third, they asked me to come to Franklin, Tennessee. And it just wasn't the right fit for me. Great organization. Just, I didn't believe in everything there. JP Morgan interviewed me. They gave me the job. I said, nah, I just don't want to do that either. So what do I want to do? I just want to be honest with people. Like, there's so many, like, I don't want to live by the Ramsey principles, to be honest. I think there's a lot better options. No hate there. But in the JP Morgan garbage there, what do I want to do? I was like, why can't I just create my own damn thing? And I'm, the Budgetdog brand. And so that's what I did. I leaned into that super heavy. And that point, I said, how do I actually make this a reality? So the very first thing I did was we understood our whole personal financial roadmap. And so the biggest thing here, obviously you need to have your finances in order to do this, but our actual expenses, like actually having a very, very detailed look to the penny, exactly what we spend on an average basis. And, my wife was making probably $84,000. I was probably making $96,000 at this point in time. So we were making good income, like pretty good income, $180,000, let's say, as a group, household income. But we knew our expenses were well below. I think our expenses were $50,000 on average then. So we had a pretty big gap, even after tax. We had a pretty big gap of saving a ton of money. And in order to do this, I didn't really want to cut the cord from income like entirely. So I kind of thought through things like, okay, well, we know our expenses. So our bare minimum, we spend $50,000 a year, and my wife makes $84,000. Even after tax, that kind of meets us. Like we're good. If I make $0, I'm willing to take that leap of faith to give it a year, a 2-year period to where I can prove myself I can build this. And I'm okay with taking that leap, that huge leap to maybe go backwards 1 step to go forward, potentially 10 steps. And I'm pretty conservative as well, guys. So like when I made this move, like I wasn't like, I'm not the entrepreneur that like jumps off the ledge and say, hey, hope it works. Like I'm not like that. I'm very prepared. And so knowing all that's huge. And the other thing is right after we mentally prepared for this and decided this, we got pregnant. Erin got pregnant and with Logan. And so she was on the way as well as pretty quickly after that. So we came to the conclusion, I think it was around like October, maybe September of 2020, that we were going to do this. But I had to prove to myself, not only do I know my expenses, but I need to match my income. In order for me to feel comfortable to take this leap of faith, we have to match my income at or above my 9-to-5 income. So 96,000 divided by 12 is 8,000. Am I able to earn $8,000 every single month in order to take this leap of faith? And I was willing to take that bet on myself, and I did. And so I think it was September 2020. It was my first year in business. And I made like my first $8,000 or something like that. It was very like right at the level, pretty much at. And I kept doing that every single month. And I'm like, man, 12 months, if we do this for 12 months, we're taking this leap of faith. And I was on my way very quickly. And we had a baby on the way as well. So I was like, man, and my wife had no aspiration necessarily to stay at home at that point in time. So she was cool with supporting. And, once we took that leap of faith, we at least have a fixed income. We know guarantee we'll take care of our expenses. Anything I bring in is kind of a cherry on the top at that point in time. And our goal was 12 months. Well, our worlds came colliding pretty quickly. And this is where the story gets very interesting. About 10 months in, we got a call from Deloitte. And Deloitte reached out to me and said, do you understand what you're doing right now conflicts with our current work? And I go, what do you mean? And I honestly had no idea. I was like, what? Confused. They're like, you can't do Budgetdog. And I'm like, interesting. I was like, what's wrong with that? It was like, there's no conflict of interest with what we do here at work. And they didn't really give me a legitimate reason, guys. I got a lawyer involved. I'm just going to be honest. I'll air everything out. I wasn't a big fan of the head of the office, how he handled it. It was not professional. He mocked what we did. And man, it really, really pissed me off. And when I get pissed off, I don't lose. I'm just going to be honest, like straight up. When I get pissed off, I will find every possible thing to win. That's exactly what I did. So that was our 10-month mark. 10-month mark, they called my bluff and they said, you can either quit Budgetdog and stay here, or you have to quit Deloitte and go do whatever you want to do. And he mentioned Budgetdog Connoisseur. And those words stuck with me so much. And I posted my my farewell letter to Mr. Mike. And I'll keep it at that, Mr. Mike. But that when he said Budgetdog Connoisseur, I said, I will lap you. In my head. I said, I will absolutely lap you and everything we do here. I guarantee it. And so they called our bluff. And that same week, we paid off our house. We were close, but that same week I said, you know what? I'm paying off the house right this second. Screw them. We're done. And then I'm going to quit the job. And then we're going to have the baby. And then we're going to go 24/7. And I will absolutely crush my Deloitte income. I know I will. And we decided to do that. And so it wasn't what was planned necessarily. It wasn't expected that way. But that's what happened. So my conservative 12-month plan and making at or above my 9-to-5 income stopped at like 10 months. But when I stopped that job, I instantly 2x'd my income. So where I was when I quit my 9-to-5 income, I took a step back from earning both, but I basically matched what I was doing because my 9-to-5 income and my at-home income was about the same at that point in time. And with that 9-to-5 income stripped from me, I 2x'd what I was doing at work, which essentially was the same thing. So I was pretty much at 2 incomes from where I was. And the first month was great. I was like, awesome. And I'll be honest, there was some anxiety. Like, it was nerve-wracking. Like, all of a sudden taking this leap of faith, almost being forced out. Still, I don't lose, but like, there was a point of me like, dang, like this is intense. I've always had a 9-to-5 paycheck. Even to this day, it's kind of odd to not get a 9-to-5 paycheck, or it's like conditioned in our society to want that and to need that almost. It's like, it's wild. It's like a drug. And I truly felt like the withdrawal effect of that. And so we went through this process, right? And we had our baby, Logan, and 5 months in, she had a seizure. I was like, well, this doesn't make things any easier, but that's life, right? That's the potential of not being able to, have your plan go as you expect is kind of life. That's expected almost. And so I all of a sudden had to reverse course and not only 5 months in figure out, okay, I'm doing okay, but like it's not stable yet. Like I don't feel great about it. But now Erin wants to stay home because she needs to, obviously, for like Logan's sake. She has that natural urge. She didn't have the urge before, but now she has that natural urge to stay home and take care of him, handle Logan's situation. Because I was staying at home with Logan during this first 5 months. It was me with seizures and with all these other, special needs. There was me holding Logan for 3 hours in a dark room so she would nap, so she wouldn't have a seizure, while I was trying to work on my phone during that time. It was brutal, to say the least. I can go into a lot of details, so I'll spare you guys them. Because this is about how to quit your job. And so we got to the point where I was on a podcast. I think it was actually right when I quit. And I said, I will retire my wife in 365 days. 363 days came. We were heading up to Michigan. And we were at the point where we actually increased our income. Because at this point, January to about, let's call it, I think it was September, maybe October. I'd get my dates all messed up. So let's say January through September, like I had to increase our income substantially during that time period and figure a way out in order to get Erin out of her job. And we did that because of, obviously, the seizures. January 29th, 2022, I think 2021, I forget the date, was our first seizure. And so I had to make sure that like, hey, Erin got out of her job. And so there was no like, hey, we'll take our time, coast, and build upon this. Like it was like, we got to do this now. And we finally did it 363 days in, and I remember specifically Erin was driving up to work, and something else pissed me off was we had a baby with potential seizures. There was a lot of snow coming, and her boss was thinking about calling it off. I said, no, we're not going to ask your boss to call off. We're not getting stuck on this freeway with a baby with potential seizure with a bunch of snow. We're not doing that. We're turning the car around, and you're quitting your job today. Like there is no ifs, ands, and buts. And she's like, I was like, you good with that? And she's like, yeah, 100%. Let's do it. So it wasn't like me being like, hey, you got to do this. Like she was totally on board. And so we were forced to move a lot quicker because of Logan. And this whole journey was only done because we knew our finances. We knew our expenses. We understood the income it took to handle our lifestyle. We were willing to be very frugal during this time, to take the step back, to go 10 steps further. And what I will say from this is this was a couple years ago at this point in time. So one step back turned into, I don't know how many steps forward. I would say 100, to the point that we became financially free very quickly after. We were close to that millionaire status when we quit our 9-to-5s, but since we've done so, we've become financially free. And it was all because we quit our job. That's the reality of it, because we could have paced longer and it would have been fine and whatever. There's nothing wrong with 9-to-5, but because we quit our job, because we knew our expenses, because we knew the mindset it took, because we knew the incomes, because we paid off all of our debt, because we had our finances on lock, we were able to take that leap of faith. And this isn't just me. This was obviously turning into me, to my wife, to also some of my students. They've taken the same framework and have applied it to themselves. People have taken huge steps backwards income-wise to then go do a career they actually love. I had a student recently making $180,000 and took a job cut to go into an industry she loved and really, really wanted to pursue for $75,000 a year. And she lost $100,000 plus of income, but she didn't care because she knew her finances were on lock, and she finally had the ability to take the leap of faith to do something she wanted. There is so much power in that. And when you get your finances right, guys, and you have an entrepreneurial vision and you want to take this leap of faith, you're going to take off really, really quick, because then you get your time back. Then you have all your focus on one mission versus trying to do a million different things. And having that focus and vision will change your life entirely. I can promise you that. So with that being said, I will see you guys next week.
You've been listening to Money on My Mind with your host, Brennan Schlagbaum. If you found value in today's discussion, share it with someone who could benefit from it too. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, so you never miss a money mastery tip. Until next time, stay passionate about your financial journey and keep taking bold steps towards your money goals.